and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name's Mackenzie, and today we're going to be discussing the fourth and final episode of the miniseries Doecember, and that was where I just talked about a Jane and John Doe from the state of Nevada every week. And this is my first miniseries, and I really enjoyed doing this, and I do wish I had a little bit of a better feedback every week, but that's fine. I know they're not like new and interesting cases for people, but to me they're interesting and to me they're important, so I am still going to be putting my whole heart and soul into today's video, and I hope to do another mini-series for you guys soon on a different subject. I have been rearranging my beauty room lately, so I'm still figuring out how to get my sign and everything back up as I used to have, and I'll get it back up soon. I'm also moving again very soon because we are getting a new roommate, which will be taking my beauty room, and I'll be moving downstairs. But I do, like I showed you guys in the last Dove video, have my candle burning for the unidentified, for the missing, for those who are not home, and this is burning right next to me today. And usually it is, like I said, displayed in the back with like a sign with the information. You can still find all that same information down in the description box, and it's there in every video, whether it's on a sign or not, of who you can call, the case number, the people's names, things like that. When I picked this case, I didn't think it was going to be everything that it has been. It's really surprised me. I was honestly like, I'm kind of out of the more interesting cases. And so I just kind of picked this one, and then as I started reading into it, like, I was very interested in what was going on, and more so confused as to how this is still a John Doe, and you'll see why as we get through it, why it is, and why it should be solved, and why it shouldn't be solved, and all these different views. You'll obviously see all of that, but let's go ahead and jump into the case of the Tod Motor Doe. It was on September 11th of 2006 when he would be found in his hotel room, dead. A mysterious man had checked into the Tod Motor Hotel on August 21st of 2006 and was scheduled to check out on September 11th. But when he didn't check out, the manager of the small motel was a little bit interested into why, so he went to the room to see if maybe it just left, as some people do from hotels, and didn't do the whole checkout process. And when he used his universal key to get in the room, he found the man on his bed with a gun in his hand, and he had appeared to have died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The man was 6 foot tall, 197 pounds, and that weight is post-mortem, so it is important to know that you do lose some weight because you're losing a lot of fluids and stuff when you die. He had brown hair, but to me in the photo it does appear to have like that red tint to it, so a lot of people might think that his hair is actually red. He has a stubbly beard going on, which he does in his photo as well, and he has blue eyes and glasses. The man has a 4-inch to 6-inch scar on his lower left abdomen, which appeared to be from some sort of surgery, and he has a birthmark above his left knee. When the man was found, he was only found in a gray t-shirt and blue underwear. Both were the brand Fruit of the Loom, and both were in the size extra large. I do believe you can only buy Fruit of the Loom at Walmart. And you might be thinking already, okay, he was found in a hotel room. Obviously, all of his belongings are there. He was there for weeks, and they have his name because he checked in, he paid with a card or something of some sort. And it's not just quite the case. In the room they did find the man's ID, but upon researching or trying to find this man's family, they found out that the ID was actually a stolen identity from a living man in California. And they brought the ID to the man, or a picture of the guy to the man. They were like, hey, do you know who this is? Because maybe, you know, he had sold his identity to just kind of make some side cash. And the man said he had never seen him before, and he had no idea who he was, didn't even know his identity had been stolen all these years, because they believed that the Doe had stolen the identity in 2004 or 2005, and he'd actually used it to get multiple jobs. So everyone who knew who this man could possibly be knew him under this fake name, which is what makes it so hard to identify him. But with the photo on his ID, which is a photo of the actual man, you'd think that it'd be kind of easy to solve, because you have this really great image and there's so much more that the man gives us that you'd think if some detective really put in the work, it could be solved fairly easily. But not only was there an ID in the room and the man's wallet, some clothes, things like that, there was also a laptop. Now, the police took the laptop away and searched through it as they would, because, well, I mean, now he's committed the crime of stealing an identity, and he's unidentified and dead. So upon going through the laptop, they found several things, but the only thing that's been released to the public or public knowledge of is a letter. They had to recover the letter from like trash and deleted areas, as computer people know how to do. I don't know how to do that kind of thing. But the letter was written in German to his sister named Birgit, and it could be Birgit or it could be Bridget. I think Birgit is actually more common in Germany, and I've seen it written both ways, so I'm not really sure which one it is. And within the letter, he talks about his ex-wife, and his ex-wife is named Karen, and she lives in Perth, he says, and he talks about someone who could possibly be his daughter named Amy. He talks about this old childhood friend named Dirk Matthias, and, you know, he talks about all of these different people, and he never sends a letter, he actually just deletes it. And I also thought it was really interesting. In my research, I read that there's a crime show in Germany, or there was a crime show in Germany, run by a host named Dirk Matthias. So this guy speaks German, obviously there's been a crime committed, and he's talking about this name. I wonder if there's any sort of correlation there, or if this Dirk Matthias has been contacted in any way. But unfortunately about the letter, it's never been released. We know of the letter, we know what little things are mentioned, like I just told you, but the full entirety or even pieces of what the letter actually said verbatim have never been released. And I think that it's really important that it would be, because since they don't know who he is, they're not sure where he's from, and they could really target what areas to be hitting his image with if they allow that to be released, because you'd be releasing his dialect. And so just as in the United States, you can tell if someone's from the West Coast or the East Coast or the South or wherever based on little things that you say, it's the same with every other language. They would be able to tell where in the world he fell just based off how he spoke German. And a lot of people too have criticized that, okay, Karen in Perth, that can't be that hard to figure out. Well, it turns out there's a lot of cities named Perth in the world, and a lot of people think that they're talking about Perth, Australia. Actually, on the Doe network, it does say Perth, Australia, but in reality, it's just Perth. That's all he ever writes. And that's just like the most famous one, but there's so many. And another group of people too believe that it's Perth, Delaware, which is close to like the Pennsylvania Dutch community, or like the Amish communities and stuff up there, which could explain why he knows German. And so it could be possible that he's from that kind of area as well, and then once he reached an age, he decided to, you know, leave his community and come out into the real world, got married, had a wife, you know, had a kid, things like that. Who knows? It's all speculation really, because Does are so difficult to solve. And even more, I saw mentioned that it could be possible that the laptop wasn't even his. People were saying that, oh, well, if he's okay with stealing an identity, then he could be fine with stealing anything, which is probably true. Stealing an identity is probably one of the worst things you could possibly do to someone besides just stealing someone. Just because you stole an identity doesn't mean that everything in your possession is stolen. I mean, really, that doesn't make sense, because everything you own is going to be stolen. You know, you could steal a car, but it's still your clothes, it's still your food, your pots and pans, you know, things like that. Like, people steal pieces, but they don't steal usually everything in their lives. So it just, to me, it doesn't make sense. There's no proof of this. It's just people speculating. And to even further disprove this theory, they have found former employers of the Doe, and they all said that he had a very thick German accent, meaning it's probably pretty likely he wrote the letter and was able to speak and write in fluent German. Even more importantly, based off of that, people recognized him. When they put out his photo, people came forward, you know, these past employers, and they came forward, but no one knew him as his actual name. Everyone knew him as this identity he had stolen, and honestly, if he hadn't have done that, this case would have been solved, you know, right away. And by him stealing this identity and using it for the last few years, it's like, that's all people ever knew, so no one can figure out who he is, find his family, get him his name, because he faked it. Another thing I'd really like to know is that so much of this information was like compiled. I have so many sources, and if you guys always look in my description box, they should be there. But one of the sources that I used today was actually Reddit, and I know that sounds really, really weird because it's so unofficial, but these kinds of things are more and more accepting these days, And there was these two people who had taken so much information and so much out of their own lives and heart into this specific case, and they'd compiled it all onto like this subreddit, and I got so much like theories and things like that through there. And these guys had actually even been contacting the agency that is in charge of this in Las Vegas, and trying to get information, like going through like the proper requests to get the paperwork of what happened. And they've been told no every single time, and they actually found out that the case is still open, which is kind of really, really weird to me, and I'll get more into that later in one of my theories. But this case is 12 years old, and it's supposed to just be a suicide. You can't really do anything about him like stealing the identity anymore because he's dead. And so maybe it's still open because they haven't identified him, but there's plenty of Doe cases that are like closed, and they'll release information for like closed, but like they'll reopen it if something more comes, if that makes any sense. There's probably a word for it, I don't know, but it's just very, very weird that it's open this long. And of course, because the Doe has his DNA, his fingerprints, and his dental records all available, they have been able to test him against other missing people that he slightly resembles. He has been tested against and is not Kinsey Otto, who has been missing since May 20th, 2000 from Clark County, Nevada; Michael Bazin, who's been missing since July 27th, 2003 from Maricopa County, Arizona; Amos Mortier, who's been missing since November 8th, 2003 from Dane County, Wisconsin; Travis Taylor, who's been missing since November 13th, 2003 from Virginia Beach County, Virginia; and Andreas Dunkler, who's been missing since February 18th, 1997 from Germany. But of course, there's still way more people that online sleuthers have looked at all these different images and think that he possibly could be one of those people, and he hasn't been tested against them. And those people would be Dennis Charles Richard Furrer, who's been missing from Florida since 1995, William James Henry, who's been missing from California since 1998, Michael Allen Jarvie, who's been missing from Oregon since 2002, James Kos, who's been missing from Pennsylvania since 2000, Stefan Brumbush, who's been missing from New York since 1989, Stephen Van Leent, who's been missing from the Netherlands since 1989, Raphael Alibert, who's been missing from France since 1998, Martin Hoyer, who's been missing from Germany since 1992. Now we can go ahead and jump into the theories of this case, and with Doe cases you can really, really run with it, but I'm trying not to run with it too far today. The first theory is that he was actually an illegal immigrant from a place like Germany, or a place where they speak German, and that's why he had the stolen identity, and why when they matched his fingerprints he didn't match anyone, because if he was an incoming immigrant they would have taken his fingerprints, and they didn't ever do that. Another theory, as I discussed a little bit previous, was that he was actually from an Amish community, which is why he could speak German. It's very common in those kind of communities to speak that language, and that's why he's never been ID'd either, because all of his friends and family don't watch TV or, get the same kind of mainstream media that we're getting out here. And then a theory that I've kind of been flirting with since I first started reading the case, and I haven't seen it anywhere else, but it is my own personal cup of tea that I'm feeling, is that he didn't actually kill himself. And I think it's really strange that in this really tiny hotel, I mean, you guys have seen the pictures throughout the video, that not one person heard the gunshot and thought it was weird. Not one person smelt a body and said anything. This is not a big hotel, so for none of that to be noticed is just really, really, really weird to me. And it's just, why would he check in and stay somewhere for like 2.5 weeks just to kill himself like the last couple of days? If you knew that you were gonna kill yourself, you would just stay somewhere for like a night or maybe 2 nights and then do the deed. Like, why so long? And it's like, it's not even known what he did in this time at all. I'm guessing he wasn't dead the whole time, because then he would have really, really stunk. But it's just really weird. I don't know, it just, to me it seems too clean to be true. Maybe it's not, and maybe this case really just is that clean. Maybe he just really was that good. Of course, if you guys have any information on the Tod Motor Doe, I really urge you to call the number in the description box and give them any of the information you think you have. If you have a missing uncle, cousin, brother, friend, if this is your ex-husband and your name is Karen and you live in Perth, or if your dad is missing and your name is Amy, please call in. They have the DNA, they can test it, they can do all these different things. If you were a family member and you knew who his doctor was, get those dental records and get them compared. Bring this guy home. Even if he did commit suicide, that doesn't mean that he's less deserving of his name, or his family is less deserving of knowing what happened to him all these years. And as I've talked in all of my videos, I want to talk about the Doe Network one more time for you guys to end off the series. The Doe Network is absolutely incredible, guys. I really urge you to go take a look at it. They cover so many countries all over the world and every state in the United States. In the state of Nevada alone, we have over 100 does that need to be identified. Of course, not all are from Nevada, but they all ended up here. So we need to do our part to try and solve the cases of all of these does. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure you guys subscribe and give the video a big thumbs up so that I know you guys liked this mini-series. Thank you guys so much for just bearing with me through all of this, but alright, I'll see you guys next time.